Hey, welcome to Wrestling What Ifs, the series where we take your favorite gimmicks, storylines, and rumors, and then we turn them upside down by asking the golden question, what if? Today we're covering the topic of what if Mark Jindrak had actually been a part of Evolution. Now, we all know that Jindrak was the initial choice to be the enforcer of the Evolution stable, and that information is backed up by both Triple H and Jindrak himself. Jindrak has come into a fair amount of success on his own in AAA as Marco Corleone, but before he was a huge star there, he actually made his debut in WCW. Of course, this was during the end of the company's life, and there's not a lot to talk about during his time there. Flash forward to 2003, and the villainous Evolution stable debuted, comprised of Triple H, Randy Orton, Ric Flair, and Batista. This group of guys ran roughshod over the WWE locker room for quite some time, and is known today as one of the most dominant and preeminent stables in wrestling history. Now it's time to twist up history and see what life would be like if Jindrak had been there instead of Batista. Let's start with talking about Batista. He debuted as Father Devon's bodyguard on SmackDown as Deacon Batista. After a few months, Batista turned face by attacking Devon and feuded with him until the end of 2002, where the feud ended with a decisive Batista victory. Now in our world, Batista went on to team with Ric Flair before the actual creation of Evolution, and I think that would still be true here. In January of 2003, Evolution would debut, but instead of Batista being a part, it's Jindrak. Now Batista with no heel turn and no big angle with the stable would be still on SmackDown. Now Batista, he'd still be a beast of a man and would be very over with the crowd. With the top stars of the brand being Kurt Angle, Big Show, and Brock Lesnar, all of who fought over the title during late 2002 and most of 2003, it would be unnecessary to add Batista into the mix. He wasn't a proven commodity, and in the main event scene, he was relatively green. So where does the animal go? Well, the mid-card, specifically the tag team scene. The WWE already had him tagging with Flair previously, and it would be the perfect way to allow him to gain experience while keeping him from bungling up his singles competition. Now, the SmackDown locker room of 2003 was quite varied, but there were not many veterans who were already involved in big feuds and would be available to team with young Batista. There is one individual, however, who comes to mind, and that's Mr. 619 himself, Rey Mysterio. Mysterio had debuted the year before and feuded with Kurt Angle and had some main event moments, but by 2003 he was thrown into the Cruiserweight division, so it's plausible he could have just as easily been thrown into the team with Batista. Ever since Rey had tagged with Edge after Kurt Angle feud in 2002, of course in our timeline in later years Batista and Mysterio would team together and win Tag Team Gold. As a team they worked well together, and it's not beyond reasoning to say that they would do just as well in 2003. Batista and Mysterio would do well on the tag team circuit, and Batista would not be plagued with the injuries he was in our world during 2003 and on. Mysterio and Batista would become champions at some point in alternate 2003 and would keep them for some time. Now, it is without question that Batista is a better heel than babyface. So, sometime in 2004, Batista would turn on Mysterio and they would feud in a major main event style matches. Batista would ultimately lose the feud, but his stock with the WWE audience would be high enough to actually inject him into the main event scene by year's end. Now, Brock Lesnar left the WWE in WrestleMania 20 in March of 2004. By the end of that year, JBL, the champion, and the WWE were scrambling to find a worthy challenger. Batista would make the perfect adversary, albeit he would have to turn face again. He was a big, strong, and much like Lesnar by that time, he was a hoss of a man. He would be well recognizable to the WWE audience. Between November 2004 and March 2005, Batista and JBL would battle for the title, with Eddie Guerrero making sporadic appearances in the matches. But the main event for WrestleMania 21 would be JBL versus Batista. Now, that would mean John Cena would not be involved as he was in our universe. That is something I believe would be hugely different. With Batista being on the blue brand and ultimately being the face to JBL's heel, there would not be a need for Cena to move up, and he would still be a top mid-carder with his rapping gimmick. But he would not have reached the same heights by WrestleMania. Batista would still win his first world championship at WrestleMania 21, but the lead-up and opponent would be vastly different. Now, this is where I'll end the alternate tale of Batista's rise to stardom, and here we'll move over to the man whose name is in the title, Mark Jindrak. Flashback to alternate 2003. Jindrak debuts with Evolution and is immediately part of Raw's biggest storyline of the year. Put in league with stars like Ric Flair, Triple H, and he is presented as one of the best up-and-comers in the business. Now, much of the Evolution storyline would stay the same, with Orton winning the IC title, and then the team of Flair and Jindrak would become tag champions. Where things would deviate, though, would be Jindrak having more charisma than Batista during that time. He would become a fan favorite more quickly than Orton, leading to Jindrak becoming the babyface, winning the title from Benoit, and becoming an enemy of Triple H. Jindrak would battle Orton, and later at some time Triple H for the title. Ultimately, he would lose thanks to some Evolution interference, but unfortunately, that would be the end of the main event push for Jindrak, allowing a feud between Benoit and Triple H to form. Now, while Jindrak would be a member of the team opposing Triple H at Survivor Series, he would not renew his main event status until the Royal Rumble, when he would face Triple H again for the title. He would ultimately lose, but would join the Royal Rumble and tie finish with Randy Orton, setting up a triple threat match at WrestleMania. Over the next month or two, Triple H would be shown annoying Orton over the fact that he assumes Orton would help him win at WrestleMania. On the Raw before WrestleMania, it would leave it ambiguous as to whose side Orton would be on, and he would be seen discussing something with Jindrak. WrestleMania 21, Orton would turn on Triple H, allowing Jindrak to win, giving him his second title reign in as many years and effectively killing Evolution. Jindrak would continue to feud with Triple H over the next few months, but would lose the title by SummerSlam, allowing Orton to take up the reins, and Jindrak would move on from there. Well, there you have it. Some might agree, while I'm sure others will disagree, whether you think this could be or it's just a fantasy. Either way, this is just a fan's opinion of what if. Thanks for watching, and if you like what you saw, comment, click the like button, subscribe, and even click that notification icon. Now, thanks again, and I'll see you next time for another episode of What If.